So it's been a while since I've done an unboxing video. This package came to me a couple of days ago from obviously Amazon. I pre-ordered the Mega SG from Analogue back in October. Now these are the same folks that made the Super NT, and they partnered up with 8bitdo again. They partnered up with them for the Super NT release, where they released their M30 controllers, which mimicked almost exactly the Super Famicom / Super NES controllers. These are M30 controllers, and as far as I can tell, they're not exact replicas of any Sega controller. They look similar to the 6-button controller. Actually, I think they kind of look similar to the Saturn controller, the second generation Saturn controller, but we'll compare them in a little bit once I get it open. But yeah, these are M30s, and they're available from Amazon now. I think that they're only available in Bluetooth version. Let me talk about that in a little bit. Let me just get this sucker open so we can take a look. So yeah, I found out recently that when I pre-ordered it, I just pre-ordered, using the link that Analogue had. I didn't even know, even once it launched, that there was a Bluetooth version and a 2.4 gigahertz version. The link to the controller was for this version, and turns out these are the 2.4 gigahertz versions. So I got two of them. Obviously, it doesn't make sense to get controllers for a retro system and not get two, because Street Fighter or whatever. So let's take a look at one of these. This should come, let's see, it says for original Sega Genesis and Mega Drive, contents M30 2.4 gigahertz, gamepad, and 2.0 gigahertz receiver. So it does come with a receiver and a cable and manual. So there's the back. There's a black edition. There's also a white edition. If you want Bluetooth, you can only get it in black so far. There is a white edition, but they don't make the Bluetooth version of that. It's only available if you want the 2.0 gigahertz version. So here we go. It looks very nice. So I am a fan of 8bitdo. I did a video on 8bitdo controllers like a couple of years ago. I don't think I ever posted it. If I did, I don't remember. I remember not liking how the video came out, so I don't know. Anyway, this looks, pretty solid. It's a little light, but that's okay because the original controllers are pretty light. Buttons feel really good. D-pad feels good. Going back to the Genesis, the original Genesis 3-button controller, I didn't like the D-pad all that much because I'd be playing Madden or whatever, and you try to go like straight, or you ended up going in an angle all the time. I don't know. But yeah, you can see very clearly here, 8bitdo M30 2.4G. I went back then to look at the website for Analogue and the Mega SG. There is no mention of 2.4G on the controller itself. Not that I would have looked, but I just don't remember them mentioning it, because all the 8bitdo controllers that I've had are all Bluetooth, which means that they work on anything, well, not anything, but most things that have Bluetooth receivers. And so the way they work in retro consoles is they have receivers, much like this one, that go into the retro console that it's designed for, and then you could pair up the whatever 8bitdo Bluetooth controller you want to the receiver. And I think you can even pair like PlayStation controllers to those receivers as well. So they're sold independently, at least the ones I got were. But the Super NT one I think came together, and they were $40. This was $25. So the advantage of non-Bluetooth is that they're cheaper. So it comes with the receiver, and obviously the controller, and a charge cable, and you don't need to buy anything else. It just works like this. I've read that they're already prepared, and I'm certain that they took into consideration you might have more than one. So I'm pretty sure that they won't interfere with each other. But let's take a little, so we'll take this out of the way. I mean, this is just it's probably just USB, yeah. So that's how you charge it. It's got a standard micro USB charging port. 8bitdo M30, same thing it says in front, 2.4G wireless. So it says model, boy, that is amazingly small. I cannot read that. 81 Charlie Alpha, I guess. Anyway, let's set this to the side, and here's the receiver. And let's pull in, let's pull in the one that I got for the Super NT. This is the SN30, at least I think it is. Yeah, SN30 gamepad. And this one is Bluetooth. So here is the receiver No, that's the wrong one. This is the receiver that came with the SN30. So you can see it's quite a bit bigger. And I don't think it's just bigger because, well, obviously the port is bigger on the Super Nintendo, but it's got extra functionality because this is a Bluetooth receiver. So I could technically plug this into a Super Nintendo or the Super NT or whatever, and just pair it with whatever I want, as long as it's Bluetooth. This one, again, only works with 2.4 gigahertz 8bitdo controllers. I don't think it would work with the KRIKzz controllers. So KRIKzz recently, the same person that created the EverDrives, he recently released a Sega controller, 6-button Sega controller that looks like it was molded exactly like the Sega 6-button. It's almost identical. The one thing I've heard about the KRIKzz controller is that, well, let me show you what the Sega 6-button looks like. So this is an original Sega 6-button controller. I think it's like an MK1653. Yeah, it's hard to read. So it's also called, I think, the SJ6000 in Japan. And the reason that's important is because you can actually go to 8bitdo's site, and I think they might even sell on Amazon, I'm not sure, but you can definitely go to 8bitdo's site, and there's a conversion kit where you can basically just take out these 4 screws in the back, pull out the guts, basically the PCB and the cable which is attached to the PCB, just literally just take it out. No big deal. It's not soldered on or anything. And then you take the 8bitdo replacement PCB, put it in there, put the back in there, and it uses this little port here for your micro USB port. And basically you turn your old Sega 6-button shell into a wireless Bluetooth controller, which is super cool. And really, that's what KRIKzz was trying to do. He took basically the same exact shape and shell of this Sega 6-button controller and released it. The problem is well, there's 2 problems with the KRIKzz controllers. One is they're really expensive. I think Amazon's selling them right now for 72 bucks. Then you can buy them on his website for 65 plus shipping. So you're looking to spend roughly between $70 and $80 to get the KRIKzz controller, which is basically, again, a clone of this. It's just 2.4 gigahertz. If you go to the 8bitdo site and you buy the conversion kit, you can turn this into a Bluetooth controller, and you have the exact same shell. Now, I said that he tried to get it to look almost exactly, and I think he succeeded in most ways, but I don't know. I've read up on this. Apparently there was some sort of manufacturing defect or something where the D-pad on the KRIKzz controller was a little crooked. So it wasn't directly like up and down. Like, I think from what I could tell in the photos, it was a little bit to the side. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's okay because your thumb kind of goes in that direction anyway. But from what I could tell, it wasn't on purpose. But anyway, I got way off subject, but I guess this video is more about your alternatives to using wired gamepads more than it is an unboxing from the M30, but I mean, you already saw it unboxed. So yeah, I think if you really, really, really want the Sega 6-button controller, your best bet is to just order the conversion kit for the 6-button. Now the thing is, until recently, until this came out and the Bluetooth version of this came out, they didn't make this for the Sega Genesis. So even though they had the conversion kit for your Sega 6-button controllers, you could not use them on a Genesis. You had to use them either on a PC or even on a Super Nintendo or wherever you could, whatever receiver. They also make a receiver. Here's one for the NES. I lost my train of thought first. And this came with the NES, the Analogue Nt Mini. I got this with it. So it's basically the same thing. It's just 4-button. It's got shoulder buttons. You can tell it's running out of battery here. I couldn't figure out a way to turn it off. But yeah, same thing. So you can see the size of this. Where's the size of this? So this is 2.4 gigahertz. This is Bluetooth. You know, honestly, with this sticking in the console, doesn't really matter. Whatever. No big deal. But still, it's just kind of to show you that, you know, there's a difference between Bluetooth receivers and just 2.4 gigahertz receivers. And the KRIKzz controller, if I didn't already mention, I might have already, is 2.4 gigahertz, not Bluetooth. So you can buy the receiver separately for the Sega Genesis / Mega Drive for 20 bucks. So you can, again, if you really want to use your original controller, and you already have the original controller, otherwise there's an additional cost there. But if you have an original controller, you want to convert it, just buy the conversion kit, which is basically a PCB, and then buy the receiver from Amazon. So for 40 bucks, you can convert one of these into a wireless Bluetooth controller that will work on everything including your Genesis / Mega Drive. Now, having said that, let's go back to the M30 and let's compare it just to the old Sega, the Beast, the Sega Genesis 3-button controller. There was a couple of versions on this. There was one with the ABC in white, and it was like at the top. I think this is the original. I'm not 100% sure, but in any case, this is a Sega 3-button. This is the M30. You can tell it's quite a bit smaller. This will completely engulf the other one. You can't even see it. As far as the 6-button, it's closer, right? But you can tell it's not identical. The buttons feel, honestly, the buttons are really close to being identical. But, you know, the shape is overall, honestly, this is a better shape, I feel. Excuse me. And this is the Sega Saturn controller, which this sort of reminds me of, right? This D button, or D-pad, sort of reminds me more of the Saturn than it does the Sega Genesis 6-button, although they're pretty close. So anyway, there's the Saturn controller. Saturn, Sega Genesis 6-button, and the M30. Pretty cool. Honestly, you know, if I'm just gonna assume it works just like the other 8-bit controllers, which is very well. If it doesn't, I'll make an addendum at the end of this video and let you know. But if you don't see one at the end of this, that means everything was good, which honestly, I don't think I'm gonna have a problem with. One last thing before I end this video. This is the dual turbo from Acclaim. So, you know, if you needed wireless back in the day, you know, Acclaim had your back here. You would use standard, oh, wow, I should take those out. Those are getting gross. So I'll take those out a bit. Standard batteries, they're AAA, 4 of them. And then you would have a receiver, right? So this was IR. So direct line of sight, infrared. If you weren't direct line of sight or you bounced it off a mirror or something, yeah, it wasn't gonna work. So I've used these before. You know, the NES satellite was very similar technology to this. They work fine. You know, it's not too laggy or whatever. I don't remember it being too laggy. But you will notice that the receiver assumes a certain distance between the 2 ports. So you have to have the right model Genesis. I think this is for a Model 1, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure it's for a Model 1. But in any case, if you have the wrong model, it's just not going to fit. But yeah, so the technology has been there for a while. This is infrared. This is 2.5 gigahertz radio frequency. And then, you know, this is Bluetooth. So yeah, we've come a long way. This is pretty bulky. It feels okay, honestly. Third-party controllers are mostly garbage, I feel. But yeah, this feels all right. This is kind of in the way, but whatever. Anyway, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, which should be hopefully pretty soon because I have something else to unbox. All right, till next time.